Hello and welcome to a new video. Let's start by this problem. You remember this from the previous video where we have a balance of 100 and we are asked basically how many years do I need in order to reach a target of 120 if the interest rate is 5%. So the target here is set, it's 120. In this problem, we are basically asked to create a program where the target is set by the user. So the user will input the target and the user can input as many targets as they need in order basically to calculate how many years is required to reach that target. The program should keep asking the user for values until the user enter a negative number. So basically use negative number as a sentinel value. That means if the user input a negative number, just end the program. So the program will work just like this. If I provide 120 as input, the program should answer 4 years as in the previous video. So I need 4 years to get from 100 to 120 with 5% interest. If the user, for example, input 170, then I should output another number of years. If the user asks for a target of 110, you should output another number of years, and so on. If the user input a negative number, you should basically terminate the program. So let's see how to do this. This is the code from the previous video where we set target to be 120 and we basically do these steps where we basically just go over in a loop and make sure we reach that target. So the first step I'm going to do is, instead of setting target to 120, I'm going to read it from the user. So I will convert it to float and I'm going to call the input function. I'm basically just saying enter a target. So if I run the program here and I entered 120, I'm expecting after 4 years, the balance will be 121. So the entire code here is just responsible for calculating the number of years for a target of 120. What I would like to do is create a loop where I am reading multiple values of target. Okay, let's see how to do this. I will start by creating the header of the loop. Now the loop will continue as long as the user did not enter a negative target. So while target is above or equal to 0, enter the loop. Now everything here will be part of this loop. So I would like to repeat the original code, which is highlighted now, for each target. Now, after I finish with one target, I will print the result, which is after this number of years, the balance will be such and such. And after this statement, I will read the next target. So I will simply just copy the statement from up here and paste it down here. Now, when I run the program, what do I get? If I entered 120, you will get after 4 years, the balance will be 121. If you entered 170, you'll get after 11 years, the balance will be 171. And when I entered -1, the program will stop. So just by adding one more loop, okay, and adding another input statement, I create basically a repeating program where I can read multiple targets and calculate the number of years for each target. Now, notice how in this case I have two loops. I have one inside, this is called the inner loop, and one outside, which is called the outer loop. Now, the entire structure, the two loops, this is called nested loop. Basically, when you have a loop inside another one, this is called a nested loop. Now, how many times will I repeat the inner loop, I will repeat as long as balance is below target. Okay, now what is target? Target will be different in each iteration of the outer loop. So you will start by target 120 in the example before. Now 120 is above 0, you will do the entire code here, including the loop. Now the loop here will go for 4 iteration. I need 4 iteration in order to finish the inner loop, just for the value of 120. Now if the user down here input 170, I will check the condition of the loop again. It is above 0, so I will enter the loop. When I enter the loop, I will set balance to 100, year to 0. We have to start fresh. Then I will repeat the inner loop a number of times until balance reach 170. So this might require more than 4 iteration. So the inner loop will run for as many iteration as needed according to target. Okay, one more point to mention here is that the outer loop is responsible for what? Why did we create the outer loop in the first place? This is responsible for reading multiple values from the user. The inner loop is responsible for calculating the number of years needed for a given target. Okay, let's move to the next problem. One common application of nested loop is to print a table structure like this one here. So let's see how will I write code to print this table. Now, what is the purpose of this table? Let's start by this. Notice how each row is representing a number raised to some power. You will start by number 1 raised to power 1, number 1 raised to power 2, 1 to 3, and 1 to 4. The second row will be number 2 to power 1, number 2 to power 2, number 2 to power 3, and number 2 to power 4. And you will go on. At each row, you will change the base. Now, in this case, let's call the base x, and in each column, I will change the power. Let's call the power n. So x will go from 1 to 10, n will go from 1 to 4. Okay, now let's see how to write a code that achieves this, which is printing a table like this. Now let's focus on the second row, this row down here. We agreed that x in this row is equal to 2. Okay, let's try to produce this row, just this one row. Okay, so I will come here, I will create a variable x equal to 2. Then I will basically write a loop that will go from 1 to 4. Why do I need values from 1 to 4? I need values from 1 to 4 for the powers. Notice how I have 2 to power 1, 2 to power 2, 2 to power 3, and 2 to power 4. So I will write a for loop for n in range 1, 4. Now, what do I do with each n? I will use it as a power to the x. So I'll simply print x to power n. Now, when I run this code, I have 2, 4, 8. Why? Because I should end here at 5 in order to get the last power, which is 4. So I have 2, 4, 8, 16. However, one problem we have is this does not look like a row. Okay, it's shown vertically. So how can I transform it to appear like this? You will add a second argument to the print function. You will add a comma, then you will write end equal, then empty string. Now, basically, what we did here is the following. The print function by default, when I say print 3, then print 4. Okay, the print function will take the argument and it will put it on the screen. Then it will move the cursor from here up to a new line. So the second print, when the second print prints its argument, when the second print shows 4 on the screen, it will show 4 in a new line. Okay, it will start in a new line. And similarly, the second print will finish printing and it will move the cursor from here up to a new line. So when there is a third print, it will print in a new line. Now, what I did by adding end equal empty string here is I'm telling Python, I'm telling the print function, once you finish printing your argument, for example, 3, once you finish printing 3, just keep the cursor at the end of 3. So if I have another print, print 4, now 4 will be printed just adjacent to 3. So when I run this code, instead of printing them each in one line, I will have them all adjacent to each other. Okay. However, this is still not very good because I would like to have a space between them. So I will use string formatting to do this. So I will write a string. I am now printing an integer. So I'll use D, and I need, for example, 10 spaces for that integer. Okay. So when I run this, sorry, we have here percentage sign. When I run this, I will have 2, 4, 8, 16, just like in the table above. Okay. Now, this is just for x equal 2. If I want to change x from 1 to 10, I will simply create another for loop. Now, this for loop will be like this for x in range from 1 to 11, because I would like to have 10 as my last number. Now, this loop, the new loop up here, is responsible for changing x. For each value of x, I would like to repeat the inner loop. So the inner loop should be a part of the outer loop. Okay, so when I run this now, let's see what do I have. Now I have all the numbers from 1 to 10,000 in or stacked adjacent to each other. Now, why do you think I have this? This is because of this command here. I'm basically telling Python, whatever you print, just keep the cursor at the end of the content. So I will print the first row, then I will keep the cursor at the end of 1, then I will print the second row and keep the cursor where it is, and so on. So I am printing each row adjacent to the other row or to the previous row. So to avoid this, I would like to print a new line after each row. So where do you think this should be? After each row, that means after a full iteration or a full execution of the inner loop. So when the inner loop finishes and it comes outside, which is at this level of code, this is outside the inner loop. Here, I would like to print a new line. Now, how do I print a new line? You simply call print with no argument. Now, when you run this, you get each row in a separate line. Now, the only remaining task is to print the header and the dashes. Let's see how to do this. Let's comment out this and focus on the header and the dashes. So I will start by printing the header. I can simply write a for loop for n in range 1 to 5. And here I will simply print the string x to power percentage %d, and in the place of percentage %d, the placeholder, I will put n. So when I run this, I get x to power 1 to power 2, 3, 4, again, vertically. So we solve this by adding end equal to empty string. Now when I run this, I have them adjacent. So how do I solve this? You can do it in multiple ways. The way I will do it is I will remove the string x and the power sign, and I will replace it by a placeholder. Now this placeholder will take 9 spaces, and I will align the content to the right. So I will add a dash, okay? Okay. Sorry, align it to the right, so I will not add a dash. So basically here, instead of this placeholder, I will substitute the string I just removed, which is x and the power sign. So basically, the string is going to substitute percentage sign 9s and the number n substituting percentage d. When I run this now, I get x to 1, x to 2, x to 3, and x to 4. Now, what is missing is I would like to print a new line. Okay, you can avoid writing this and see the result for yourself. Why do I need to print a new line? After printing a new line, I will simply print the dashes that I'm seeing here. Okay, so I'll print one dash repeated, for example, 50 times. Then again, I will print a new line. Now I can copy this code and place it here with the body of the loop of the table, and run the entire code, and you can see I have the result perfectly aligned. Okay, let's move to the next example. Here you are basically asked to count how many uppercase letter contained in a string. So if you get this example, the answer should be 3 because there are 3 uppercase letter in the string. Now, how do you write a program that calculates the number of uppercase letters? Let's see. How do I iterate over a string? You will use a for loop, naturally. So for C, or let's use a meaningful name for char in sent. So go over each character in the string sent and store it in char. Now what do I do with this character? If the character is uppercase, so char dot is upper, what do? I will increment the variable uppercase. So basically it will be uppercase equal to uppercase plus 1. So when I run this now, I have the number of uppercase letters are 3. So let's see what actually is happening here. This is a for loop. Char is going to store one character of the string sent at each iteration. So char will be T in the first iteration. T is upper, will be true because T is a capital letter. So uppercase equal uppercase plus 1. Uppercase was 0, now it will become 1. Now, in the second iteration, char will be what? It will be H, right? So H will result in the if statement here being false, so you will not increment uppercase. Okay, and you can repeat this until you reach to letter E. So this char dot is upper will be true only in 3 cases: the capital T in the beginning, the capital T in the word test, and the capital M. Okay, let's see the next example. Print all uppercase letters. So this case, you are asked basically to print the uppercase letter. So naturally, you will iterate over the string with a for loop. Then you will ask if the character at this iteration is an uppercase character, so is upper, what do I do with it? I will simply print it. So when I run this, I get, okay, there is a syntax, there is a spelling error here. So now I get TTM, okay? Because I have T and a capital M in the original string. Again, same idea. You just go over the character one at a time, store each one in char, make sure it's uppercase, then simply print it. Now, this is a different question now. Suppose you are asked to print the position of each uppercase letter. Now I need the indices. So in this case, it will be 0 because T is at index 0. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The capital T, the second capital T is at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and capital M will be at 15. Now, how do I create a program that does this? If I write something like for char and send, if char dot is upper, print char. If I did this will just print me the uppercase letters. This is the same code as the one up here, right? So this is not what I want. What I want actually is to print the position of each uppercase letter. So I need a different kind of for loop. And instead of iterating over the characters, I will iterate over the indices. Now, how do I do this? Indices are just integers, right? And to get integers with a for loop, you will use the range function. So for I in range what are the numbers you would like to get in this loop? You'd like to get numbers from 0 up to the last index in the string, which is len of sent minus 1, right? However, the range function needs a number greater than the last one. Remember, if you need numbers from 0 to 5, you will write range 0 to 6, right? So the same thing here. If you want a numbers from 0 to len of sent minus 1, you will write range 0, or you can even remove the 0, up to len of sent minus 1 plus 1, right? Here 5 plus 1. Len of sent minus 1, here len of sent minus 1 plus 1. So minus 1 plus 1 will remove each other. Basically, you end up with range of 0 and len of sent. Okay. Now, let's write this here. So I will use len of sent. And now I will be used in the if statement. However, what do you think about this? Is this correct? Ask yourself, what is I? I is an integer. So integer cannot be an upper or lower case. Okay, upper or lower is only a characteristic of a string. So instead of this, I would like to check if the character at this specific index in the variable sent. So the character at position I is upper. If this is the case, what do I print? I will print I itself, which is the index. Remember, I need the indices of uppercase letters. So I get 0, 10, 15. Okay, let's move to the next problem. Now, in this case, what do you think the output of this code will be if I run this? Now, when you run this, you will simply get the positions or the indices of digits. So I have one digit at position 1 and the second digit at index 3. Okay, so assume the question asks you to find the position or the index of the first digit. So I would like just the first statement in the output. How do you write such a program? Let's see. Now, I'm going to go over the code, okay? Then I will explain what I'm doing, okay? So far, I am repeating I am repeating the loop as long as there are more characters, as long as the index is less than the cent. I would like to add another argument. So repeat the loop as long as there are more characters, which means I am still less than length, and make sure we did not find a digit yet. Okay, so I'd like to make sure that I only enter the loop again. I only repeat the body of the loop if I did not find a digit. If I already found some digit, I should stop the loop. Now, how to do this? Let's see. I will simply modify the condition of the loop. I will write while not found and position is less than len of cent. Now, found here is just a Boolean variable. It will start by the value of false. Why? Think about it like this. In the beginning, we did not find any digit, right? So I will repeat the loop as long as I am still not finding any digit. As soon as I found a digit, found will be true, and not true is false, so I will stop the loop. Okay? Now, I have to set found to be true again when I find a digit. So when this statement is true, when the condition in the if statement is true, I should modify found to be true. Okay? Now, when I run this, I see that I only have the first statement. Okay? Now, how do you modify the program in order to get the last digit, the position of the last digit? You will do a couple of modifications. Let's see them written here. So the first thing you notice is position will start from len of string -1. Earlier, position started at 0. Notice how position started from 0. In the second example, position will start from len of string -1. Why? When I am asked to find the first digit, I will start reading the string or checking the string from left to right. Okay. When I am asked to find the last digit of the string, I will start from the right up to the left. So it makes sense to start position from the end. Now I have also to modify the condition of the loop. Position should be greater than or equal 0, because I will keep moving from right, which is len of cent -1 up to 0. So each time move backward to the left and decrement position until you reach position equal to less than 0. Then you stop the loop. Now this brings me to this update step here, which basically instead of incrementing position like we did here, because I'm moving from left to right, I will decrement position because I'm moving from right to left. So when I run this code here, I will get the position or the index of the last digit. Okay, that's it for this video, and I will see you on the next one.